Hello and what is going on, guys? Tomcat here, and in today's video we are in Assetto Corsa with a wheel cam. Now I know you guys have been asking for Assetto Corsa for a while, and I've been out of Assetto Corsa for a good period of time, primarily because I was getting very frustrated playing it with a controller and the game just didn't feel that good to me, and long story short, it became kind of infuriating to play with a controller, and so I kind of backed out of the game and kind of got out of it for a while. But now that I have a wheel, I went back to Assetto Corsa, and oh my god, playing this game with a wheel, I mean, obviously that's what this game is made for, because from the second you set off, you realize that that's what this game was designed for from the ground up. And I went from one extreme to the other, as you'll see in this video. Started out with a GT86, and ended up in a Zonda R, and I'll include the first clip of the Zonda R later in the video, because we got to the first corner, and I was still used to a GT86, and kind of spun the Zonda R around a couple times. But after that, I was actually able to drive the Zonda R decently smoothly, and it was actually a really fun car to drive once getting the hang of it. But you can assume that that would be pretty much normal for anybody going from a GT86 and jumping into Zonda R. It's like, for example, it's like when James May got out of the Fiat Panda and jumped in the Zonda F Roadster. It's a little bit of a difference. But, the main key points that I want to dial in with this game are just to make sure about force feedback settings and stuff like that. I need to go in and fine-tune those, but I also need to go in and fine-tune my wheel settings just as far as to see what works. Now, it actually seems to work really, really well in the state that it's in right now, as of now, but knowing me, I can't really leave it alone. I need to make sure it's absolutely bang on perfect. And I know a lot of you guys are wondering when Forza with the wheel is going to come, and it's going to come soon. I need to figure out a couple of things as to how I want to set it up, but rest assured it is on its way. Now, Assetto Corsa is interesting because it's a game where you can kind of make it an open-ended simulation to whatever kind of driving style you want to have. You can use it as a drift simulator, you can use it as a racing simulator, you can use it as just like, you can just use it for hot laps, you can use it for whatever you want to. And I was hot lapping in this video just for the sheer point of dialing in my skills and kind of getting myself warmed up to the game and kind of getting ready for the future of it. Now, I do want to get into wheel drifting in Assetto Corsa. I know that a couple of other people on YouTube do it, and it'll be interesting as in a journey just to see, because yes, I agree that I am new to Assetto Corsa. I am new to this whole wheel business. But to be fair, it actually doesn't bother me that much. I feel like, for me, as just, kind of like a personal thing, I tend to be a little bit impatient sometimes, and I'll kind of like, oh my god, why am I not good at this yet, blah, blah, blah. But with the wheel, and especially with going into Assetto Corsa, I think the fact that it is a totally different game than, say, Forza Motorsport, it allows me to say, okay, I need to kind of warm up and really kind of regain the skills that I have in other games over here. And it's an interesting kind of journey, because when you're going into it, you're like, this is going to be easy. But when you realize it's not quite as easy as it looks, because the physics in Assetto Corsa are a whole hell of a lot more responsive than they are in, say, some certain console simulators. But with that being said, the handling physics in console simulators can be tuned to the point where they're almost on par with a game like this. So you can't really take a game's stock settings and take that as what the final game is. Now, I am using manual with clutch in this car. I'm not using any kind of auto blip. I'm heel toeing the downshifts, and I know that that's a little bit odd since I'm using the paddle shifters, but I do plan on getting my hands on an H pattern very, very soon to stick right there on the desk beside the wheel. And once I get that, I'll be using that for a lot of the cars in the game. But it's interesting that that Assetto Corsa uses the actual gearbox of the car as the base setting. You don't just set an across-the-board setting. If you set it to be basically dynamic, then your GT86 is going to be manual with clutch. Your M3 is going to be paddle shift, the SMG with auto blip downshifts and things like that. Your Zonda R is going to be a sequential paddle shift, so you're going to just, again, using the paddles, you got your auto downshift, and your auto blip downshifts, and it just works well, and everything functions together as it should. And I like that, because if you're used to a single type of car, you can know going into it, no matter really how you have your gearbox in the game set, you can know going into it that, yes, this is going to be the gearbox setting that I'm going to be using with this car. There's no question about the gearbox settings you're going to be using. And I like that. It takes a lot of the guessing out of it. And I don't really like to, you know, to go into a game and having to reset everything every time I go in. I like to be able to set things, and after messing with them a little bit to try and figure out what I like to be able to set things and leave them and just be able to actually play the game and use the game for what it was meant to be used for. And with a game like this that has a gearbox setting that's dynamic to all the different cars in the game, it just pretty much allows you to use whatever you want. Now, in going from the GT86 to the Zonda R, the Zonda R is a maniac. It is an absolute maniac mobile. Now, when I say maniac mobile, I mean this thing will burn rear tires up to third gear. It will just destroy a circuit if you know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, it will spin around and bite you in the ass immediately. So, when you're driving something like this, you have to be a little bit higher up on your guard. But with that being said, here's my first fail with the car. And then after that, things got quite a bit smoother. It took me a few laps to get used to the difference in power and also just the difference in sheer speed. But once I got used to that, it was actually really, really interesting because you see the motions of my leg on the pedals are actually different because you don't see me doing any heel toeing. It's just on and off the gas and the brake. And it's different because it's interesting too. When you're driving something this quick, like the amount of like attentiveness you have to have of everything that's going on is pretty huge. And let's just say this, it's a good thing for me that the Zonda R has really good brakes, because I used them quite a few times. If they weren't as good as they are, I may not have these laps may not have ended up that well. But as you can see, it's really, really, like, I wouldn't say twitchy. Twitchy's not the right word. It's just really, really, really responsive, and everything you do plays a part in how this car handles. It's not like well, you can do it this way or you can do it that way. You'll pretty much make it around the corner anyway. It's more of a, you do it this way, or you add just a little bit of an extra touch here, and if you don't, say hello to the wall, and or the grass, or the sand pit, or whatever it is you're headed for. And the power is just phenomenal. The power is off the charts insane. And you actually feel a connection when you actually pull the paddle on the wheel. You're like, whoa, holy crap. Like, it feels like you're actually shifting, especially because you can see the in-game driver pulling a paddle. And did I say pedal earlier? I meant paddle. You can actually see the in-game driver hitting that paddle. And again, right there is where I went off again. But it's a car you've got to be always on your game to drive. And I feel like, obviously, with more practice, I'll get this thing down. But once you're really into it, then, I mean, you are going to be flying. And I'm really, really interested in getting my hands on some of the DLC for this game so I can run some other tracks. And let me just say, I would love to run this thing on the Nordschleife just to see how crazy it actually is out there and see what kind of time I can put down with the wheel. Because the Nordschleife is kind of one of my personal favorite tracks, obviously, of all time in any game, but I really enjoyed it in Forza 6, and I believe I'm like, for my A-Class Toyota GT86, I'm like number 2 in the world with that car. Number 2 in the world out of GT86s. Not number 2 in the world A-Class, that's a totally different story, but number 2 in the world for A-Class GT86s. I don't think it's number 1. It might be, I'll have to check, but if it is, it's only by like maybe half a second or something, but I do know for a fact that it's up there in the top 3 in the world for fastest A-Class GT86s, so I will really have to look back into that and see how it is, and then compare my controller to wheel lap times, because if I do that, that would really be an interesting kind of study to see how long it takes for my wheel times to catch up with my controller times. The only difference, though, that I can see is the fact that you have so much more adjustability with a wheel that you're able to make such minute corrections all the time that you already have so much more control than somebody on a controller. I mean, you're probably thinking right now, like, well, no, I have a controller, and it's fine, and I do well, and that's totally fine. You might do really well with that controller, but when you transition over to a wheel, you feel it. You feel the difference, and you feel how much of an advantage you actually gain from using the wheel and the practice you actually get with the wheel, because the minor adjustments are so valuable. But if you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed this discussion about wheels, then don't forget to click that like button. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought of it. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Talk to you guys later, and hope you guys enjoyed!